Napa know-how.
A Napa guy knows more isn't always better, unless we're talking about full-size vans. These beasts do more than get you from A to B. They have so much space a man can live in it. With shag carpeting, waterbed, and a sweet lava lamp, these mobile abodes have all the comforts of home. With quality parts and plenty of Napa know-how, you can keep the original tiny house running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. Well, it's actually midnight, so I suppose we're moving into morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and you have reached Venus Unplugged. And what is explored here on the show are all aspects of Venus, whether it be as the star, as the heavens, as the archetype in our personal life, certainly in mythology, and goddesses and all those things Venusian. And what we're exploring the next couple of weeks is Inanna. And today I'd like to explore Inanna as a queen of heaven. So with the Sumerians and the Babylonians, Inanna is Sumerian, Astarte is Babylonian, and they were fascinated by the stars, as we are, and in a way, perhaps the way we now respond to the idea of exploring the universe nightly from the rooftop terraces of their houses. They must have watched, I don't even know if they had rooftop terraces, and they watched the night and the great constellations wheeling around them, which was, I guess, the natural television of the time, of the Bronze Age. And as the Sumerians came to identify the most brilliant stars and gave the zodiacal belt the names and the images that have endured to this day. Talk about projection, yes. So both Inanna and Astarte were worshipped as the Queen of Heaven. And their principal images were the moon and Venus, and the morning and the evening star, which may have given rise to the image of the eight-pointed star, as well as the stylized rosette with 8 petals as a symbolic meaning of their presence. 8 was the number sacred to the morning and the evening star, addressed as the radiant star, the great light. And in a Sumerian poem, 8 was the number of years it took for the planet to return to the same point of the zodiac while at its greatest brilliancy. Now they know that because they were one with it all. It is also the number of the sacred year, celebrated not only in Sumeria, but in Egypt, Crete, and Greece, when the full moon coincided exactly with the longest or shortest day, so reconciling the lunar and solar time. Ishtar, in later seals, is often shown with a circle of stars around her. Well, no wonder Starbucks is so popular. That's their branding, that circle stars around the queen's head. Well, that's Ishtar. Smart boys, smart girls. Whoever created that branding unconsciously or perhaps consciously knew what they were doing. So she's shown with this circle of stars around her, and as she personifies the zodiac. And indeed, the zodiac was called Ishtar's girdle. Talk about great branding. That would be great branding for lingerie, right? Ishtar's girdle. So Sirius, the star that held significance for the Bronze Age civilizations in Egypt and in Crete, as well as in Sumeria, was also specifically associated with Inanna and Ishtar. And as were certain constellations such as Virgo and Scorpio. So the story of Inanna became as how she became a moon goddess, derives from Enlil's, Enlil, L-I-L-S in Lils. Second, this is such cosmic gossip. Okay, sit down. Here we get the gossip. Okay. So, Inanna becomes a moon goddess, and she derives from Enlil's second marriage to a goddess called Nilil, Ninlil, whose name means Lady Air. After having been raped by Enlil, she gave birth to Nanna, the moon god, who in turn married Nagal, goddess of the moon, and they had 2 children. Thank goodness. Inanna, whose name means Queen Moon or Lady Moon, and Uti, the sun god. So in this genealogy, which seems to be a later revelation or realization of her existence, Inanna is the great-great-granddaughter, it's taking me a little time here, of Namu, N-A-M-M-U, and the great-granddaughter of Kai Nagusba. And so that in this mythological Inanna, she takes on an individual character, and she is the first goddess or god we know who suffers as though she were human. And what about those humans who suffer as gods? Like Psyche or others. And who can therefore express the mysterious drama of the human condition. Our hymn addresses her as the moon goddess and the morning star. So this is part of the hymn. She made the night come forth like moonlight. She made the morning come forth like the bright daylight. When in the bedchamber sweet sleep had come to an end, when all the lands and the black-haired people had assembled, who had slept on the roofs, who had slept in the walls, and uttering orisons approached her, brought their words to her. Then did she study their words. She knew the evildoer. Against the evildoer she renders a cruel judgment, destroys the wicked. She looks with kindly eyes on the straightforward and gives him her blessings. My lady looks on in sweet wonder from heaven's mist. They parade before the holy Inanna, the lady who reaches heaven. Inanna is lofty. The maid, Inanna, I will praise as is fitting. So that's a part of a beautiful hymn, as there are. These hymns are absolutely exquisite, and they're very much worth researching and reading and enjoying and becoming and unfolding and feeling them and performing them, whatever you can do to bring, because Inanna, yes, she was a goddess and she is a goddess, but to the people she was human. She experienced all things human, and therefore very much like the Black Madonna relates to humanity. So she's not so distant, and she's certainly not distant in our psyche. She is part of that remembrance. So if gods or goddesses or God itself seems too far away, Inanna is ever present. She's there. Now, interestingly enough, Inanna's Goddess Day, or her festival, is August 20th. And the things about Inanna is the sky and universal awareness and lore. And remember, in an earlier episode, I told you about Me, M-E, which is the laws. She took the laws from God and took them as her own. He gave them to her as a gift. And then when he woke up the next morning after he had a bit of a hangover, he was looking for his powers, which he had given to Inanna while they were partying, and he wanted them back, and she said no. And the most important of the laws is the capacity and the ability to be just. And that is very, very big. So this is where she comes in as just, and she brings these gifts that were given to her, and she will not return, because a gift given, you can't be an Indian giver, right? Not even in heaven. She brings it back to the culture, which is why she is so loved, all right? So, and she is also, it's the universal awareness and law, movement, peace, unity, love, and leadership. Her symbols are the rose, the star, the lion, wands encrusted with stones, and dates. And so the Sumerian Lady of the Heavens looks down upon the world, seeing it in its wholeness and unity. Her gentle tears wash from heaven, putting out the emotional fires that keep people apart in the world or anywhere in the universe. Ainana oversees matters of love, divination, winemaking, and leadership, just to name a few. In works of art, she is depicted wearing a horned headdress and sprouting wings. So on her festival day, August 20th, she bears a message of peace and welcomes to any alien life forms that we might find. And she travels, and we are reminded of what a truly big place the universe is, and that the importance of making our part of it better under Ainana's guidance and care. So it'd be, let's pray and chant and hymn and reenact and embody symbolically this wisdom and justness of Ainana, so that people can feel her and perhaps bring peace within their own world, which would then bring peace to the world. So she's very much part of that. So to make yourself an Ainana wand, which is kind of cool, because we want to make the world a better place. So you can create your little Ainana wand for directing magical energy designed to manifest peace and oneness and love and leadership. And so what you need to do is you take a large rose twig or any fallen branch and let it dry. Encrust this with an amethyst. So that for those of you that are into ritual and magic, so during spells and rituals, point the crystal in the direction you want the energy to travel. Finally, leave Ainana an offering of wine at dawn. She is the morning star to attract her power to your day. Isn't that lovely? So exquisite. So Ainana is also, we've got a couple of minutes here to be furthering our awareness, Ainana Awareness Week, right? Ainana is also the goddess of the storm. She's all things. So in early Sumeria, as in Old Europe, there was no separate image of the terrible goddess of death and destruction. Okay? So it wasn't the goddess of death as opposed to goddess of goodness. They didn't have that. It was all one big potentiality, archetypal force. Okay? So life and death were intertwined like the strands of a rope, two aspects of a whole. Ainana was identified with the unpredictable, chaotic, and destructive powers of nature, as well as the nurturing and life-bringing powers. It was she who presided over the thunderous roar of the storm and the raging floodwaters that could erase years of labor in a few months. sweeping away any human lives, dwellings, and crops like so many lumps of mud. The Sumerians greatly feared the power of the storm to inflict devastating floods on the lands by the sudden rising of the river waters. So Inanna, as the sky goddess, in her dark aspect, was portrayed as the thunderstorm, whose terrifying roar issued from the lion-headed thunderbird. Okay. I'm trying to pronounce this. I'll spell it instead. Imdugud. And that particular image, that bird, was on the seals of Inanna, the talismans, and is carved in stone between two great stags. And that's a very powerful force. So when Inanna was in the form of the thunder and the storm and the air god, all right, so who is the brother of Inanna? It's always family, you know. They create the greatest storms and the greatest beauty. So it seems likely that the attribution of the bird to the gods derives more from later Indo-European influences, not so much at that time. But remember, the Inanna is often addressed in hymns as the dragon. Catch that. So the vermin flowing from the dragon's mouth may be the destructive power of the storm or flood. The dragon and the torrential flood waters also appear in poetry as metaphors for the devastating power of war. And for the 3rd millennium BC onwards, Inanna and Ishtar becomes goddesses of war. So you see how these things get separated and evolved and reduced and handed back, and this constant churning of the mythical and archetypal world, revealing its stories and its place in our world. So for many centuries, the memory of Sumer and Sumer had vanished. But in the Gnostic literature of the first centuries of Christianity contains a poem called The Thunder Perfect Mind. I put that up probably last year. It's a magnificent hymn of Inanna. I am the first and I am the last. I am the Hur and I am the Holy One. I mean, come on, let that rock. I mean, talk about being able to integrate opposites. I mean, that poem is a magnificent version of when the opposites stand together as one. And even when you recite that poem, it will help you integrate conflicting principles within yourself, because it causes that integration, which is what Jung talks about in active imagination. I mean, one time I was working on this Thunder, the Perfect Mind, and plus the Hur and the Holy One. I mean, I just loved that. And I thought, I'm going to have a active imagination with my Hur and my Holy One. And it was intense, terrifying, and ultimately hilarious when one spoke to the other. And the final conclusion was, well, then I'm an enlightened Ho. So I guess all things go well with Inanna and Thunder and the Perfect Mind. So the richness of this myth, of this goddess, of the Sumerian people, and how much they've influenced us. So there, leave it to the Gnostics. The Gnostics are the ones that have the true teachings of Christ. They kind of see the world like the Matrix, You either take the red pill or the blue pill. So that's one way that we look at the Gnostic teachings. So the old image of the Sumerian and Babylonian goddesses, whose archetypal power was expressed in the thunder's roar, and in here integrated with the iconology of the goddess as a personification of wisdom that has evolved during the intervening millenniums, right? So this is one way when we start to see this Inanna Ishtar was also identified with Cyrus, bow star. The beautiful Assyrian seal shows her holding the bow that signified the epiphany of Cyrus. And the stars tip the arrows and quiver as she holds it. And one rests on her crown. And beneath her feet is the lion. And the rising of Cyrus, in conjunction with the sunrise of the month of July, heralds the parching drought and death-bringing heat of the summer months, when everything visible withered and died, and the people of Samaria were struck by the arrows of the twins Scrooge. How do you say that? Scrooges of hunger and disease. Yay! It's the summer months. Not a good place to be in the summer. Guess not. Okay. So as Cyrus and Inanna was the power who, through drought and disease and war and death, destroyed the earth and her children. Yet her power to bring death into balance by the palm tree of the tree of life, which is also another image of her, this was the time when her son, the earth's vegetation, was sacrificed and descended into the underworld to await the time of regeneration. So Inanna also in these symbols, when she goes into the underworld, which I will be getting to, when she goes into the underworld to meet her dark sister Ereshkigal, I mean, that's a descent into the underworld. And we all make a descent into the underworld. Of course, we don't see ourselves as Inanna. But when she makes that descent, all powers of heaven and earth are taken away from her because she needs to meet her dark sister, her shadow aspect, the one she does not know. Ereshkigal's husband had died, and Inanna goes in. I was just having a thought, how could death die in the death realm? But it's myth. I'll go with it. So Inanna descends to meet her dark sister, and her sister's less than thrilled. Now, one of the marvelous things when she makes her descent, of course I'm jumping ahead, but hey, it's midnight. When she makes the descent, each gate, she's got to go through 7 gates. I'll go over this more specifically in a couple of weeks. She has to go through the 7 gates. And 7, of course, as you know, is Saturn, and then we've got the 7 chakras, and then we've got the 7 powers, 777. It's a fantastic number. And she goes through the 7 gates, and at each gate she gives up or is something, like her crown is taken or something is taken away. And each time something is taken away, she is told, Inanna, the way of the underworld is perfect. Now, if we could remind ourselves of that as we're careening into a depression, or a feverish pitch of jealousy or envy or any of the deeply rich emotions that bring us to our knees and have us understand our humanity, hopefully with a little kindness and compassion, it's perfect. The ways of the underworld are perfect. Now, I suspect what they mean by perfect, one of the etymology of the meaning of perfect means all our parts Nothing is excluded. Most people consider perfect as like the good. Let's just do the good. Well, the more you want that only goodness or goodness as perfection, you are calling up the devil from your unconscious. By nature, it must come forth because we're out of balance. We see it happen all the time. Even that saying, no good turn goes unpunished. I never understood that. It seems like, that's so cynical. And yet, I thought about it for 25 years and finally came up with a reasonable insight. I don't know that it's the only insight, but it is a reasonable one, or it's the one that I liked at the moment. I still think about it. But, that no good turn goes unpunished. Then I realized, well, when we do good, whatever that might mean, we are going to evoke its opposite. We are going to evoke shadow. If we do a good turn for another person, for one person, let's say there's two friends and one person really does need you, and you extend yourself and you do an extra special goodness for them, the other friend may just feel a little dark about that or feel like, a little jealous or a little envious. Like, how come they didn't get a extra scoop ice cream or a diamond or whatever, okay? Or that when we are going to do something good, if we don't know what is just and balanced, it's going to come back in our face. You extend a courtesy to an ungracious person, a rude person with no manners. What do you think is going to happen? So this giving and this goodness business needs a lot of wisdom. We just can't be, happy little imbeciles that go off giving, and good, because we're unconsciously evoking its opposite and then cannot understand or feel hard done by, which is totally understandable, for how it doesn't exactly pan out. Goodness needs measurement and wisdom. That's what I'm saying. I would prefer, this is my personal, by nature, I'm generous. So that's something I like about myself. But I have to measure my generosity. Just because it comes natural doesn't mean that I'm right. And so we can be generous to the wrong person. And they hurt others with something you've given them. So, you really need to look at these natural emotions and this addiction to perfection, and that it's not always so good to be good. Or you can go do the good and then wait to see what returns, and then do an act of imagination with those two opposites so that you get, in active imagination, what you need to do is you need to get the two opposing issues, right? Whether it be good and evil or up and down, whatever it might be. And you let them dialogue. One says one thing, and like I said about the hooer and the holy one, all right? One says one thing to the other and back and forth, and this dialogue begins to happen. Now, as that begins to happen, and those two become in relationship with one another, one is not overcoming the other, a third factor will happen. The magical third in alchemy is about the aha moment, the paradox. Okay, so the English ladies tell me I got to get off the phone. So here we are. We're at the end, the beginning of the morning, and the end of this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. And also sign up on Blog Talk Radio, and then you'll get it right to your email every day. I'll also put it up on Facebook. So till we meet again, bye-bye.